That phrase, the will of God, is very interesting. It's used a number of times in the scriptures. 3 times here in the New Testament we find it. And it doesn't mean what we usually try to mean. 1 Thessalonians 4:3. For this is the will of God, your sanctification. Everybody's searching, trying to find the will of God. Paul says, there it is right there. I'm trying to find the will of God. Go to 1 Thessalonians 4. This is the will of God, your sanctification. You don't like that one? Okay, how about 1 Thessalonians 5:18? Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. There it is. I don't know what y'all searching for, man. It's right there. You don't like that one? 1 Peter 2:15. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. There it is, folks. There are 3 basic meanings of that phrase, the will of God, that concept in the New Testament. 3 types of God's will. 1, his sovereign decretive will. Now, this is the will which God brings to pass whatever he decrees. This is hidden to us until it happens. So when we talk about God's secret will, his decretive will, we're talking about that will by which God brings to pass whatever he decrees. And it's his business, not yours. And usually when we say I'm trying to seek the will of God for my life, what we're trying to seek is that one, which is none of our business. But we want to know it because we don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to make the wrong choice. We don't want to suffer. So we want to tap in to the divine will so that we know God's secret plan so that we can make the next step and not suffer, when suffering might be exactly what his will is for you in the next step. 2, perceptive will. Perceptive will is God's revealed law or commandments, which we have the power but not the right to break. Perceptive will. What is the will of God? Well, it's his law, the 10 Commandments. Honor your father and your mother. That's God's will, that you honor your father and mother. Don't murder. That's God's will, that you not commit murder. Don't commit adultery. That's God's will, that you not commit adultery. See, that's his perceptive will. The law of God as he reveals it to us so that we know how he wills for us to live. Finally, it's his will of disposition. This describes God's attitude or disposition. It reveals what is pleasing to him. This is good. This pleases God. That's the way we see the will of God in the scriptures. And that's it. And so usually when people say, I want to find the will of God, what we're referring to is that decretive will of God, the secret will of God. And we want to get in on it. Listen to these. I'm going to read you 3 quotes because I want you to grasp this. The first one is from John Piper, preaching on this very passage. And the question is, which will is Paul referring to in Romans 12:2? And I'm arguing, he's arguing that it's the second one, that it's the perceptive will, or the will of command, not the decretive will. The answer surely is that Paul is referring to God's will of command, or his perceptive will. God does not intend for us to know most of his sovereign will ahead of time. If you want to know the future details of God's will of decree, you don't want a renewed mind, you want a crystal ball. This is not called transformation and obedience. It is called divination or soothsaying. R.C. Sproul. Many Christians become preoccupied or even obsessed with finding the will of God for their lives. If the will we are seeking is his secret, hidden, or decretive will, then our quest is a fool's errand. The secret counsel of God is his secret. He has not been pleased to make it known to us. Far from being a mark of spirituality, the quest for God's secret will is an unwarranted invasion of God's privacy. God's secret counsel is none of our business. This is partly why the Bible takes such a negative view of fortune-telling, necromancy, and other forms of prohibited practices. See a pattern there? The seeking of God's will that is common to us falls into the category of fortune-telling, soothsaying, necromancy. It's paganism. Finally, Bruce Waltke. When we seek to find God's will, we are attempting to discover hidden knowledge by supernatural activity. If we are going to find his will on one specific choice, we will have to penetrate the divine mind to get his decision. Finding, in this sense, is really a form of divination. It's paganism. It's paganism.